It's Wednesday, October 19th, the day before Thursday night football. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Washington Redskins and whether they're contenders in the NFC East and whether they should get a little bit more respect. My guy, my brother, Lake Lewis wrote a incredible piece as always. You can check out if you want more in-depth coverage of the Washington Redskins. You can check that out on the Redskins wire.usatoday.com. You can also check it out also at sportsjourney.com, where you can also find my work. And we're also going to talk about whether a pass interference call should be able to be reviewed. And I'll give you my thoughts on why I think it should. Well, first we'll talk about the Washington Redskins, and as not so much as of late, but it seems no matter what this team has done in the past few years, especially since Jay Gruden's appearance, also with the addition of Scott McCloughan to this football team, to manage this football team, and to find quality football players, it seems like the national media continues to be very disrespectful to the Washington Redskins. Even in their success here in 2016. Now, it seems like every year, no matter how piss poor the Dallas Cowboys are, they're picked to have some kind of domination and Super Bowl challenge. Now, again, no slight to the Cowboys. They are 5-1, and you guys know how I feel about that. But you guys also know how I feel about that. The Cowboys in previous years, 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, 7-9, average. And yet they get a lot of fanfare. And basically the Redskins and the Cowboys in the same boat. They won a lot. They've won some divisional titles, but they haven't won too many playoff games. And they sure enough haven't won any Super Bowls. Last one, 95 for the Cowboys, 91 for the Redskins. So I understand the thought process, but also you have to respect what this team is doing. Just as much as the Dallas Cowboys, rightfully so, have been getting praised, you have to respect what the Washington Redskins have been doing in the past couple of years. Now, a lot of excuses last year, and a lot of them warranted. The division that they played in and the schedule that they had last year was very favorable for the Washington Redskins. Now, this year they have a tougher schedule. They got off to a very slow start, 0-2 start, losing to the Steelers and the Cowboys. One was a complete rout. The other one was a close game that could have been decided by one poor pass by Kirk Cousins could have changed that dynamic, and we could be talking about the Washington Redskins sitting at 5-1. But they're not. But they go out and beat their two divisional opponents, one very highly respected and very talented Philadelphia Eagles football team at home. They're sitting at 4-2. And yet, there's no respect for this team. Now, Lake Lewis wrote a piece, or one of the contributors here, Maurice Hawkins, wrote a piece about if you watch First Take or don't watch First Take, about Stephen A. Smith and his rant about being very dismissive about how some of the Washington Redskins players were talking about getting some respect. They are the defending NFC East champs. And they did beat the Philadelphia Eagles at home in a favorable division foe, one that was leading this division before the Dallas Cowboys bumped their way up there. And Chris Baker had some words to say. He 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 wants to be respected and thinks that they should be respected. They're the defending champs. They should deserve to get that respect. And Stephen A's um, thoughts were that it's just a division title. But let us not forget that this team is not only on a 4 game winning streak. Not only are did they beat a quality opponent in the Philadelphia Eagles, but they've won 8 out of their last 10 regular season games. It's pretty respectable and pretty good streak for the Washington Redskins um, and this football team. And if you look at the injury bug that has plagued this team, seems to happen every year, doesn't it? Um, and the amount of people they have on IR, 3, 6, 9 players on IR, and other injuries that have players out. And yet this team continues to fight, and yet Kirk Cousins has not played up to his full potential. He's still on the struggle horse. And this team continues to win and has put together 4 solid games of football. And they're coming into this weekend, which we'll talk about on Friday or Thursday when we break down the games. The Detroit Lions at Detroit, a team that is very beatable, and they'll have the Cincinnati Bengals before they go on their bye. They could very well be looking at splitting these two, or they very well could win. They have a very good opportunity of beating both of these teams. And when you look at the division as a whole, Philadelphia, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, and you look at the talent that the Redskins present on the offensive side of the ball, they can compete with any of those teams in the division. And you can no longer look at this division and say, "Hey, this is a weak division." Uh, you know, they're not as strong as they appear. They're just beating each other up, and there's going to be 9-7 team that's going to win this division. You could possibly win it at 8-8. I don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. I think you have to have 10 wins in this division. And there's 3 solid teams, and you know how the Giants are. I know the Giants look kind of wavery and weary right now, but they have that Giant usually wakes up around week 7, week 8, and they start getting on a roll, and they start making that push for trying to contend for that division. So this is going to be a horse race. This is going to be a 4-way race, and it's probably going to take 10 games to convincingly win this division. But the Redskins should get more respect. And we can talk about it's just a title, it's just a NFC East title, but those things and making the playoffs is important to fans. Now, of course, fans want playoff wins, but it's very important to fans to have their team being able to make the playoffs and do it in a consistent fashion. And that's something that the Redskins are working towards. You look at the football players they have on this team. You look at what Scott McCloughan is doing, and you look at the defense and the injuries that it had. You can see the effect that having a real general manager has had on this football team as they plug young guys in, and they're gritty and they fight and they continue to find ways to win. So I definitely say that the Redskins are a contender in this division. It's going to be a fight all the way through, and I think it's at least a 3-team race in the NFC East. Now let's go and talk about officiating, something we have talked about for several weeks. You guys know my thoughts and feelings on the way things have been done this season. I understand that there's a human factor in officiating, and that mistakes are going to be made. But the pass interference call that was not called on Julio Jones with Richard Sherman. Now, I know some say that could go both ways. Could have been an offensive pass interference. Okay. But it looked really bad on the defensive pass interference side to me. So, when we look at pass interferences, it's so much different than college football. College football pass interference is a automatic 15-yard penalty no matter how far down the field it is. But in the NFL, it is a spot foul. And when you look at what the Atlanta Falcons are trying to do, put themselves, or any team is trying to do, especially in tight moments, under 2 minutes, fourth quarter, games on the line, your team's trying to make a drive down the field to potentially get in to tie or win the ball game. A pass interference and a non-call on a pass interference can be a huge, huge letdown and a huge deciding factor in a football game. Now, I understand people are talking about, well, we don't want to slow the game down. We don't want to make the game even longer. But would you rather have a 4 hour, 4.5 hour, or maybe a little bit longer game, and it be right, and it's not decided on a call that was obvious and could be avoided? Because yeah, we understand every sport has human element involved. The human eye doesn't catch everything. Humans are not perfect. We're not machines. And things are going to be missed. But when it comes down to the obvious stuff, when it's very obvious, should be an opportunity where those things can be reviewed. Whether it's whether we start with a booth review of those types of things, and whether we add some type of challenge system where if you challenge, you have a certain amount of challenges, maybe 5, maybe 4, maybe 6. And if you challenge, you keep those challenges. You get to keep that. Now, maybe we can do just 4, but if you challenge, you can keep those challenges, especially if you challenge something like that. And if you lose, then obviously you lose a challenge. So I think it's something that we can look into, and of course all these processes are always slow. There's nothing that ever happens that is going to be right away and a complete change immediately. It's always a slow process in any game. So I think that's something that we can do because we have to improve. There's too many calls, your basic calls, your basic calls that every knowledgeable fan totally understands. And understanding that yes, you can't see everything, but geez, when it's like the elephant in the room, there's no reason why that call shouldn't be made, especially if it was made earlier in the game. Now all of a sudden, those calls don't exist. We have to have some kind of consistency across the board so that it can be fair for all teams, all organizations involved. And so we don't have games that are decided by a non-call, which is an obvious foul, which enabled or disabled a team from being able to have an opportunity to put themselves in position to be able to tie or win a football game. Well, again, we thank you so much for listening to the show. Again, you want to shoot us some questions, we're happy to have them. You can shoot those questions over to straightshootingst@gmail.com. When we get them, we either make them a topic on the show, and it will be the course of talking point of our show, or we'll fill them in towards the end of our show. Either way, we're going to talk about it. If you want to get at me and talk shop anytime, you can hit me up on Twitter at NotBland21. And I'll be happy to talk shop with you guys. It's always great to talk shop with you guys on this show. And again, thank you. And we will get at you guys tomorrow. Thursday Night Football, ladies and gentlemen. Thursday Night Football. It's almost here. All right, now, we're out of here.
Yeah! Crab cakes and football! Nice. That's what Maryland does!